What more can they ask for me now? I'm giving it all to my family. I'm growing and asking God. It's more to the life than the finer things. A soldier with passion and love. Born sell, but they know me as Ramesses. I was chosen, so I'm going for it now. Doing all of the things for my legacy.
Stand up in the streets with a CD and sales pitch. Shadow was the team and we eager to smell rich. We didn't get defeated, repeated the sell shit. Making all the heat that they needed to sell fits. Took a trip, we went to Atlanta to sell more. We didn't quit, we lifted our standards to tell more. Went to social death and we beat up the damn door. They didn't want to sign it, said fuck it, we'll sell more. Came back to the city, we litty and go to work. We didn't want the pity, your tears, just wrote a verse. We ain't from the burbs, we gentlemen from the dirt. Making real music, the city was on alert.
Thank you for joining the Media Launch Podcast. I am your host, Selene, and today I am joined by author, motivational speaker, life coach, artist, Marcell Fitzgerald. Marcell is a 2-time published author, and his most recent book is God, Family, Mind, Body, and Soul.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming in. I truly appreciate you coming. Let's get to it.
Marcell, this is a phenomenal read, I must say.
Thank you.
You're very
so
welcome. In your words, this serves as a motivational and inspirational guide to personal development and overcoming fears. There are a total of 9 chapters, and then you go on to conclude the book. Mm-hmm. Before we dive into the book, in summary, can you tell us a bit about yourself, your upbringing, and your background?
Yes, I was born and raised on Chicago West Side, Carson and Jackson, they call it K-Town.
Yep.
The odds of coming out of there and surviving is like slim to none. Thankfully, I had as I mentioned in the book, I had a humble praying mother that prayed over us. So here I am today because of her blessings and her love.
Right. Now, I know that in reading the book, I learned that you grew up with 2 parents. Do you feel that that was an advantage for you growing up on the West Side with both parents?
To be honest, at first I didn't. When I was younger and I saw things that was going on in the household between my mom and my pops, I thought like we'd be better off with just my mom, But as I got older and I, started learning and really understanding how, even if things ain't perfect, a 2-parent household, how important it is, then it made me kind of, rethink that. And,
right.
I did have an advantage.
Right.
Yeah.
I would agree as well. Well, just because you grew up with the 2 parents in the house, it's not always healthy. We all know that, right? Mm-hmm. But it sounds like yours was for the most part.
Yes.
So you structure your book in, again, 9 chapters. God, family, mind, body, and soul. Those are all aspects of our lives. Why did you title this book what you did?
Because, the first one, it was, I went through a period of like personal development for years, after getting married and things like that. There was a lot of things that I didn't understand. So once I got into that element, I started thinking like, man, I can really do this, and some things happened for me. After that, and then the success of Why Not You, then I started to dive more into who I am. And that's kind of what inspired me to write this book. And I'm like, I'm a God-fearing person. I'm a family guy. What's important to me is my mind, my health, which is my body, and my soul. So I'm like, that's the perfect thing to name this second book. So that's kind of what inspired me.
And I love the title, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So what compelled you to write this book?
Actually, I think some of the experiences that I've went through over the last few years, after putting that book out and then, dealing with COVID and things like that, it was kind of a down moment for the world.
Yeah.
And myself, I went through a thing of like self-doubt and things like that. And I got reinsurance. I actually read my first book again, man, I could do a lot better on the second one if I do a second one. Mm-hmm. So that's what kind of compelled me to do
and
it.
keep going from there.
Yeah.
Marcell, your first chapter, Introduction to God. We know that religion provides a basis for moral beliefs and values. However, you mention in your book that you are more of a spiritual being and not so much religious, right? So explain to us the difference, and for the listeners and people who are reading the book, how would they know that they are being led by God? And would they know that they are listening to God's voice?
Well, to me, basically what I'm explaining is that I built a personal relationship with God, but that didn't just happen overnight. I was born into a very religious family from my mother and my father's side. And I saw religion in itself divide family. You know, and that was one of the biggest hurdles in my life that I had to get over, because I was confused.
Right.
I'm like, if we are supposed to love God, then why am my family into it over a particular religion? So I didn't want that to be the basis of my relationship with God. So I was like, well, I really love God and I pray to him, and I feel like he blesses me in my own relationship that I have with him. When it has nothing to do with religion, or when I'm talking to my family, did you go to church or anything like that? That ain't why I didn't feel like that's where I got my blessings from. It was all from a personal, when nobody's around, like talking to God and praying and asking for things. And that's what I kind of based my relationship, and that's kind of how I think today. You know, so, you know, I would tell anybody, like I'm saying in the book, you can do religion, whatever works for you, but long as God is the basis, then I think that's the best for you.
Right. Okay. Very well answered. So this was a two-part question. How would the reader know that they are being led by God, someone who is looking for direction?
I think it all depends on the individual. You know, if you pray to God, and you feel like the things that you've prayed for, he's blessed you in some type of form, then I feel like that's him leading your way. Right. You know, but it's all about your belief, and it all stems from the faith that you have.
Right.
You know, because some people can say, and I see this a lot, like they pray and say, okay, God, I need this. Can I get this? Yeah. And then if it don't come soon enough, then they might have doubts in God. Yeah. You know, but my belief and why I feel like he leads my path, and I tell any individual out there, is it might not come when you want it, but long as you put the prayer out there and you believe, it'll happen. You know, God is kind of working on that blessing. I always kind of say, like, he wrapping that gift up and that blessing, but he waiting on for you to believe in it. Right. You know, it's just like if you tell your kids, like, you know, I'm going to get you this gift for Christmas or whatever, and they just so anxious for it. They so anxious for it, and Christmas morning started, and they like, where's my gift? They don't believe it. Right. You have to be patient, and you have to believe that, you know, your prayer did not go in vain. Right. Right. So faithfulness, and also maybe ask for confirmation of some sort, right? So you mentioned that there were times when you lost faith. How did you regain that faith, and how did you learn to trust God again? It's kind of like what I was just kind of speaking to. It was times where I felt like things wasn't fair for myself. I've always been like a God-fearing, giving individual, and I would ask God, like, well, you know where I'm from, God. I'm from nothing. All I'm asking for you is to do this. And I wouldn't be patient. Right. I would try to do things on my own, and then I started losing faith that way. You know, not believing, not trusting and having that faith. I do it on my own, try some things, and things don't happen for me. And I was like, man, I don't know. I really did like have a lot of doubts. But it wasn't until me really started practicing my faith. Right. Because you have to practice your faith. Of course. And that came from a lot of discipline and reading again about the mental, you know, about my mind and everything. where I say, you know what, it's not God in the situation, it's you. You just rushing everything. And that's how I was able to gain my faith back in God.
Which we tend to do. Chapter 2, you speak on family. You have a son, and I know that you may have maybe faced some challenges in the beginning because your heart was elsewhere, maybe basketball. You were not ready to be a father, and then when you learned that you were going to become a father, you felt you weren't ready, or maybe unsure as to how you were going to provide for your son, and being that you didn't feel you were mature enough. How has that changed throughout the years? And in addition to having one son, you now have a daughter as well, and how is your relationship with them now? And is it what you thought, or is it where you thought it would be looking back?
Back then, I can honestly say I was terrified when I found out I was gonna have a son. I think part of it is, I didn't have a relationship with my father, and I wasn't ready to have kids. I was in college playing basketball. I wasn't ready for that at all. So my whole thing was like, I'm a play ball, I'm gonna play professional, get professional. Then I have a family, and then I take care of kids. So when I found out that my son was gonna be born, it scared me and freaked me out. Where I was down in college, I had a full scholarship. Me and his mom wasn't doing the best. So my thought was, I want to be better than my dad. I should just leave school and go be closer to him. Which I necessarily didn't have to do when I think about it. But at that time, reason I don't have no regrets, that was the only thing I knew to do. With not having any guys and things like that. So I was super terrified, and it was extremely hard. But I say the one thing that worked for me, and I can tell anybody else, you might not have the answers on how to be a father, but if your heart is in the right place, you'll get all the answers along the way.
Absolutely.
Now that's the hardest thing to accept. Like, I don't have all the answers now, but I gotta depend on faith.
Right.
You know what I mean? And God leading me the way. When you 20, 21 years old, it's a scary thing. But by doing that, everything seemed to work itself out. And when I met my wife, and she had a daughter, they was like the same age. And I'm like, how coincidental is that? And I feel like since I believed and said, I'm going to be a father no matter what, God brought me a daughter in my life. And our relationship with my son and my daughter is just, it's fantastic. I couldn't be more proud of them.
Awesome. Well, I love to hear that. There really is no instruction guide on how to raise kids. They're just...
it's not. It's not. If it is, I want to know what that said so I can read back on it.
See if you missed the mark somewhere, right? Okay, so let's dive into maybe you being a coach, and that's what you're like a lifestyle coach, right? Life coach, rather. So you speak on strengthening your mind. Why is it important to strengthen your mind, and what are 5 things that one can do to do just that?
It's first I'll start off with saying it's vitally important to strengthen your mind. As we know, you get a million thoughts a day that go in your mind. Now, if you had a rough childhood, or you saw some things throughout your life, it's that much more difficult with the things that's going in your head. If you had a past of something that happened to you or something like that, it's kind of hard not to, it's kind of hard to ignore those thoughts, the negative thoughts. We live in a world with social media, pornography, at an ultimate high. And if you're not intentional on what's going in your mind, it's easy to get wrapped up into all the things in life and let those negative things go into your head. So I would say, if I would say 5 things, first thing I would say is watch how much social media you attending to. I ain't saying all social media is bad.
No, of course not.
But a lot of it is negative. And if you really look at social media and see what get the most likes, it is the negative stuff. It is the wild partying and the drugs and things like that. So that would be one thing. Secondly, I would say turn your if you have a house, make one of the rooms, or if it's not a room, a little area, a library.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Make it a library. Like if you don't have books, you should start purchasing books. Yeah.
You can purchase this one.
You definitely can purchase this one. This would be the first book you should get right here. I would say the third thing, and this is something that I did years ago. I turned my car into a big learning center.
Oh, okay.
And when I say that, opposed to listening to music all the time, I started listening to audiobooks.
Yeah.
Like going to and from work.
Yeah.
Just putting that positive thing in my mind. The fourth thing I would say is, what would I say the fourth thing is get you a journal.
Okay, yeah.
If you don't have a journal, to start writing down your thoughts and things like that throughout the day.
Yeah.
Sometimes if they bad, they negative, you can write that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like depending on the day, right? Like 12 o'clock, you had like a negative thought. My boss make me sick.
Yeah.
You put that down.
Right.
And then you see how you feel in the next couple of hours and see what that thought is that you wrote down, and just kind of look at it.
Yeah.
Because this is you. This is a reflection of you, and you can't lie to yourself. Right. So a journal would be a real good thing. And the last thing is, if you haven't, create your vision board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get you a vision board, and I go into detail in the book what a vision board is. It's basically a collage of your thoughts on a board.
Yeah.
And you want to put that somewhere that's close to you in your home. If it's you want to put it on your refrigerator. If you want to put it on your desktop, I got it on my desktop. Yeah. And it's just kind of a reminder of me of all the things that I said I was going to do at the beginning of the year.
Okay,
so those would be 5 things.
And how effective has that vision board been for you? Because you got to put in work, guys.
Yeah,
you can't just draw these things out and expect things to just magically happen, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. So yeah, it's been really beneficial to me, when I have a bad day, and then I go into work because I have it at my, my day job, on both of my screens. So it's like a reminder, like, oh, you said you was gonna do this. Right. You said these are the goals you want to achieve. So I highly recommend that people, create their vision board.
Okay, so definitely that's a takeaway, people, your vision boards. So let's talk about chapter 8. It is okay to let people go. We sometimes tend to hold on to people because we grow comfortable there, because we may fear that life may be different without them. But tell us, why is it important to let people go sometimes? And elaborate on that if you will.
Well, when you let people go, then you set yourself free. When you holding on to something that is no longer there, whether it's your past, something that happened to you, or a particular individual or something like that, then you still living there.
Yeah.
Even though you in the present form of now going through life, you still living there. Anytime you that name get mentioned up, or a memory or something of that person happened, then you kind of still living there. So you haven't set yourself free. And a lot of times if you haven't done that, it's not healthy for you. Right. Because that very well person that you still holding on to has moved on with their life.
Right.
But you still holding on to that, the memories in that person. And if you're not careful, it can really lead you to a state of depression, stress, and then it makes it makes it bad for the next individual or relationship that you're gonna get into, because you're gonna carry that into the next relationship, whether that's a relationship between a man and a woman, or a friendship. Right. It's the same thing. You'll carry that into the next relationship. So it's very important to let people go.
Yeah, you make some valid points. Lastly, and before we wrap up, I want to touch on one of your chapters, Developing a Winner's Mentality. Talk to us about the importance of doing that, and give us an example, if you will, of a time that maybe you faced some challenges and you had to take your own advice and do the same.
Well, my biggest thing and what I really try to express with that chapter is, if you don't have a winner's mentality, especially when you're coming from, humble beginnings like I had, then this world will, chew you up and spit you out. You got to go in front of people that have confidence, like myself. That's why I would, I touch on it so much. I go into situations when I was playing basketball. You have a 2-parent household, coming to the game to see this, coming to see their son play basketball.
Right.
I'm in that same game competing, and I have nobody in the stands. So my confidence, if I don't have that winner's mentality, like no matter what, I'm gonna outshine and I'm gonna do the best, then I'm gonna fail every time, because that kid has the support, all the support he needs to give him the confidence that he needs. When you in that situation and you just by yourself, and I remember them times, like, when I really got good at basketball, I would have to get to myself and say, I'm better than everybody in here, no matter what. And that situation got me a scholarship to go to college.
Nice.
So I take that same mentality, and I talk to my son about that a lot. It wasn't so much about the basketball.
Yeah, right.
The basketball is where it started at, I'm gonna be best. But I took that same mentality and applied it to the world.
Yeah.
So I can go in any arena, any job situation, any business situation with the confidence and that mentality, like, hey, I'm pretty good at this. I'm great at this, and I'm gonna be best. Even if it's a lot of stuff that I still need to learn.
Right.
I'm gonna still go into that situation that I can do this. I'm the best. So.
Yeah, great answer. And lastly, when did you again have to take your own advice and take your own advice and build that mentality and implement that into your own life?
I would say, man, when I first, when I got out of college, I was unsure of what I wanted to do, because I wasn't playing basketball no more. And my whole thing was like, I just gotta take care of my son. Then, I was doing music, and the music thing didn't really work out like how I wanted it to do. And then I got married to my wife. Yeah. And here I am, like, oh God, I gotta go into a corporate situation? I don't want to do that. I really didn't want to do that. And I had to say, okay, I'm gonna step into this corporate situation, and I'm not really that comfortable with it. This ain't nothing that I really aspired to do. Yeah. But I'm gonna go in here just like when I went to the first basketball tryout. And whatever job I get into, I'm gonna apply that same, winner's mentality. Like, I deserve to be here, and y'all should want me here. Right. And I remember going into this job, and it was just like a little. Here I am with a bachelor's degree in sociology. I take this little warehouse position. Yeah. And I go in there, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go in here and show that I'm much more than this position. And I went in there, and I was just doing a great job and all that. And I remember a manager, who was an African American guy too, and he pulled me to the side and he said, "Hey man, you're doing a real good job at this position, but I saw your resume. You got a degree. Like, have you ever thought about being a quality, doing quality audit?" I say, honestly, my brother a quality engineer, but it never really struck my interest. But I can do whatever. I'm a smart guy. I can do whatever. And long story short, he promoted me, which changed my salary significantly, and got me into a quality position. And then I started supervising the next year, and then my career in corporate has just went up.
Nice. So you went up the corporate ladder, started climbing that ladder.
Climbing that ladder with that mentality.
So your book, God, Family, Mind, Body, and Soul. I know, and I learned from reading your book, that you had a cancer scare recently, maybe a couple years ago. How did you approach that? How did you handle that? And how has it changed your perspective in life?
Yeah. To be honest, that was one of the scariest moments in my life. You know, I went in there to check my stomach because I have gastritis, and I was dealing with a lot of bloatiness at the time. And I told my wife, I said, you know what, I'm gonna let them. I want them to do a full check on me, you know, to see what's going on, see if I got any ulcers or you know anything. I need to find out what's going on because it's been years I've been battling with gastritis for about 7-8 years, and I just wanted to know, like, man, they need to tell me what's going on. And I got in, you know, I went in there and they checked me, you know, and they said, you know, everything good, is just still a mild case of gastritis. I'm like, here we go with this mild case of gastritis. It ain't mild to me.
Right.
So, you know, they said everything looks fine, but we did see a small mass on your left kidney. And I was like, what? What is that? You know, it's just some real small mass on your kidney. So we're going to refer you to a kidney specialist. So I'm like, okay, at that time, I'm not thinking anything about cancer or anything like that. So when I went to the kidney specialist, he's like, we need to check this because it could be cancerous. And my mouth just dropped. You know, it really scared me. It scared me so much. And my wife wasn't even with me at the time because it was during COVID. And he was like, but let's take a look first. So they checked it. You know, we did the check on it, and it came back that it was in fact cancerous. So when he told me that it was cancerous, I just started crying. You know, like I started about to get chills thinking about it now. Like it was one of the scariest moments of my life. But the doctor was like, "Hey, Marcell, we can do robotic surgery, and we can get rid of it." You know, and I'm like, I don't know nothing about no robotic surgery. All I hear is cancer. All I hear is cancer.
That's scary.
My wife ain't with me at the time. I'm like, I ain't hearing what this guy's saying. But he did calm me down and was like, we can do a robotic surgery. And, you know, I called my wife after that, you know, called my brother and my sister. And I could just remember, you know, leading into that surgery, I was trying to stay strong, but I've never been a person that deal with anxiety. I was dealing with so much anxiety, my blood pressure went up, so they had to put me on blood pressure medicine and all that. But at the same time, I still was like staying prayerful and staying strong. But it was the most scared I've ever been in my life.
Of course.
So, you know, thankfully, after having a successful surgery, being able to keep my left kidney, being cancer free, it opened my eyes to life differently. Because I was like, you know, when you sitting up there and you're hearing something that can take your life, it changed your perspective on life. So I started, you know, even though I've been in my whole personal development journey for the last 10 years, this gave me a whole different perspective of life, a different outlook. Like, I'm more appreciative of the small things. You know what I mean? Like waking up every day. Like, I wake up every day like full of joy and thankful. Man, I joke with my wife. I'm like, you see how pretty them trees are? Like, you know, like stuff that I've never really paid attention for. Like,
you cherish really everything.
Nice, like that's some nice grass. I want to have my grass. Because you know, it just make you that much when you feel like, man, I could have been out of here. You know, and then, you know, I had them doubts like, you know, what if it come back? You know, what if it come back? So let me live every day to the fullest. So when people see me, social media, see me post a lot of pictures with my wife and us having a good time, I want to share them memories because you just never know. You never know. So really changed my life for the better.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's very touching, and I think it allows people to give some further thinking on how to approach life itself. What is your takeaway for your audience when reading this book?
So I will look in the camera when saying this. The biggest takeaway I want the audience and the readers to get from this is to live your best life today. Live with intention. any abilities, any talents that you have, you should do it now, right now, because you never know how many days you got left on this earth to do them. Also, for you to start patting yourself on the back, looking yourself in the mirror and telling yourself that you are a winner, regardless of your flaws, regardless of how many failures you've had in life, how many people put you down, how many people told you no. Understand that you are God's child, and He created everybody as human beings, and we all have the ability to do whatever we want to do down here. So in this book, I'm just outlining a lot of things that I've went through and how I overcame them things by developing those disciplines and those positive habits to be the best individual that I can possibly be. God, family, mind, body, and soul.
And where can they purchase the book, and where can they find you on social media?
You can purchase this on Amazon today. Just look under Marcell Fitzgerald, or type in God, Family, Mind, Body, and Soul. Right now I have the paperback, and I do have the Kindle version available.
Okay, nice.
I am working on an audio book, because I know a lot of people like to read audiobooks. I am on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Marcell Fitzgerald, yeah, that's where you can get it at.
Listeners, audience, viewers, do yourself a favor and cop this book, God, Family, Mind, Body, and Soul. You will not regret it. It is a great read. Thank you for joining the Media Launch podcast today. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
I'm growing and asking God. It's more to the life than the finer things. A soldier with passion and love. Born sell, but they know me as Ramesses. I was chosen, so I'm going for it now. Doing all of the things for my legacy. Stand up in the streets with a CD and sales pitch. Shadow was the team and we eager to smell rich. We didn't get defeated, repeated the sales shit. Making all the heat that they needed to sell fits. Took a trip, we went to Atlanta to sell more.